Hey, what's going on, guys? So I wanted to give you a first look at the Atomos Shinobi. I have been all over the place traveling for all these camera reviews, so I feel like I haven't been in the studio for a long time, but now we are back, and I really want to show you this. I mean, I am a user of Atomos products because, yes, I have this one. I have the 5-inch Ninja V, which is actually my favorite. I use this thing all the time. But now we have the Shinobi, which is actually very similar to this, except it is a monitor only. So I figured this is a good time to kind of show you that. Actually, the Zhiyun Crane 3 Lab that it's mounted on is actually very new for this. And then this is a Nikon Z6, which is actually coming out with raw support with the Atomos Ninja 5. So that's kind of a cool combo right here. But let's get into what this monitor has and why it might be something that you're actually interested in. So in case you've been living under a rock, Atomos makes some really good screens. And this one is basically taken from here and put into the Shinobi. And what that means is you get a 5.2-inch full HD, so 1080p. It can actually take in a 4K 30p signal, but it is a 1080p display, and it is 1000 nit brightness, so extremely bright. And what that's going to mean is that you can see this thing in daylight, in sun, no problem. I had it out today, and it was unbelievable. So yes, this is a screen that's not going to compete with your camera screens. It is much better, and it is in a very light package. So size, it's about the same as what we've been doing on the Ninja V. The difference is that now we have a polycarbonate plastic body instead of the metal body. And while it does feel a little bit cheaper, obviously we have some advantages with that weight. And so that is something that you're going to love for the monitor. And then the other thing that we have is the battery is now mounted centrally into the back. So it's actually very evenly weight distributed on here. Whereas this one, you had the SD card and then the battery over here. And so it could be uneven depending on your setup. So for something like this with a gimbal, if I don't need recording, this is an optimal setup right here because it's giving me something lightweight. I have an immensely powerful screen, and we're going to get into some of the things that you can show on this, which is where I think that the real power of these screens is not just having a better monitor, but being able to see things like vector scopes and peaking and zebras and all that kind of stuff on here in an instant, and even audio signals and everything like that. I can see exactly what the camera is picking up on this as well. So it is so much more powerful than just a normal monitor. The two other big reasons to use this are going to be HDR support, because we're talking about a 10-bit screen able to display about 10 stops of dynamic range on these cameras with full support for all your HDR formats. So that's one. And the other is going to be for anamorphic use, because you can actually show a de-squeeze signal right here on the monitor. So if you're shooting with anamorphic lenses, you'll be able to see exactly what this is going to look like in post right here on the monitor. So let's walk through some of the aspects about this monitor. First, you do have a whole lot of options on here as far as your source input. So you can be matching the camera and the kind of footage that you're doing. So if you're shooting, for example, I have the Nikon, I have that selected. If you do the Sony, you can shoot SL or S-Log, or you can select HLG recording, anything like that. I'm going to go back to my Nikon. And so, yeah, you have basically every camera and a ton of profiles on here. Now, the menu system on this is very similar to the other ones. I wouldn't quite call it intuitive. You can't just click and scroll like you would on like a smartphone or something like that. It's a little bit more complicated, but it's not bad at all. So yes, I can select my Nikon, I can select N-Log, and if you're doing that, I guess these are the only two choices for that right there, but you do have all of those options. You can do log HDR on the output if you do want to. Now the camera does, or the monitor does have the ability for you to upload your own custom LUTs, so if that's something you're into, you can absolutely do that. We have audio with our headphone output. You do have that HDMI input. The only thing that's lacking is we don't have an HDMI output. I personally don't need that, but I know some people that record to a monitor here and then want to output to maybe a larger screen for someone else, like someone who's monitoring the actual visual, like a producer or something like that. I don't personally do that, so this is good for me. You can also see your battery levels on here. Now these take the Sony batteries, and depending on how many milliamps the battery you use, depends on how much recording you will have. On this one I can get 2 hours recording, and if you use a large battery you can get up to 4 hours recording. It does include a power supply, so you can actually plug in a fake Sony battery into the wall, and that will allow you to power this thing forever if you do want to. And you can also lock that screen. So here's the versions that I'm rocking right now. Now let's get back into the other settings for this. And so on the monitor, you just have a tremendous amount of features that you can have on this. You can see the monitor settings right there. And then as we go through the monitor, we have just some really cool modes that you can use. We have things like Luma waveforms right here. We have RGB. We have vector scopes, which are very, very popular, vector scope zoom. We also have your histograms, which is something that I use all the time. You have RGB histograms. I mean, just a ton of analysis on here. We can do focus peaking and see exactly what the camera is focusing on, and then our zebras as well. So this is absolutely amazing to have these kind of features on here. And then they do have like a blue only, so that can help you see like noise of your video. So if you want to see basically how much noise it's producing, a lot of times it's very difficult in a color scene. So this will really allow you to show the noise profile that you're seeing on the actual camera. Now, if we scroll a little bit more, you can actually access some more functions. The biggest one that I use all the time, in addition to things like histograms and focus peaking and zebras, is going to be this zoom function. We have a 2x and a 4x zoom. Again, peaking is still on, so this really lets you get in there and fine tune. You can do all of this while recording, which is great. So just a ton of options on things you can do. You have things like safe areas. You can have different aspect ratios on here. So it's just absolutely a ton of different modes that you can access and make this really into something way more than a traditional monitor. So let's take a quick walk around the device. So there are fans on here. Honestly, I have not heard the fan at all, which is something that I actually don't like about the recorders, is that you can hear a fan. You will not hear that on here. Again, that SD card, can't do any recording on it, no screenshots or anything like that. It's for upgrading firmware and adding those LUTs if you do want it. Again, we just have that one HDMI in and a headphone output. Something like an HDMI out would have allowed me to record this screen, which could have been nice for this video. But yeah, it's just something I don't use a whole lot, but I know a lot of monitors do have that. We do have a 1/4-20 input on the top and the bottom, and that's basically it. So that is kind of a walk around and first look at this device. For a monitor, it's listed for $399. It is unbelievable the kind of quality screen that you're getting for that price, and I know there's some others that are upwards of about $400 to $500, and it's just unbelievable what you're getting. Now, for something like the Ninja V, you're actually being able to get this for only about $300 more than that. So if you're into recording, this does give you HDMI in and out. It also gives you the recording ability. You can use it as a monitor. The only downside to this is going to be a little bit heavier, and then you're going to have to deal with some fan noise occasionally. So that is kind of a first look on this. Let me know your thoughts on this before. A monitor is something I don't use all the time, but a gimbal setup like this is some time that I use it a lot. I mean, I use it here in the studio when I'm doing YouTube videos and stuff like that. But with this being so lightweight, it could have a lot of advantages. Again, things like gimbals, being able to mount this on your camera as a front-facing screen, and then just the ability to access all of these functions that you couldn't normally get on a monitor makes something like this really cool. So let me know your thoughts if this is something you're interested in, if you want to see a full review on the Crane 3 Lab. So really excited to show you some of the cool stuff that we've got going on. Again, check out some of the videos that we just released, some really big cameras and big reviews, and there's some more awesome stuff coming up real soon. So guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Really cool stuff. Follow us on Instagram @LearningCameras, and we'll see you real soon in the next video.